Welcome YouTube to my mistake of buying, and Mark, my mistake of buying a Nascar. So where we are right now, and then I'm gonna do a montage to catch you up, is we're about to start this thing. It's been about 2 days of work spread out over a week or two because we've been really busy of getting this thing ready. First, the oil system had a bunch of contamination of metal particles, dirt, dust, wood, everything in the dry sump tank because the dry sump tank was left open for some reason. Same thing with the fuel system. So we took apart the dry sump system, took the dry sump off, took all the oil lines off, cleaned everything out, flushed it completely, tried to figure out where the metal shavings were come from. They did not appear to come from the oil pump, so we just well, whatever. Put it all back together. It's making good oil pressure. You preheat the system, and I'll show you all that in a second, and then spin the oil pump over manually. It was making good pressure and all these things, and then cranked it up, made sure it was making oil pressure and was happy, and we weren't giving it fuel at that point. And then we kind of cheated temporarily by putting fuel in the back and deleting the fuel system. So right now, this just has a jug instead of a fuel system in it right now, going directly into the fuel filter right there, and then that goes up to the carburetor. So that was basically to eliminate all the fuel problems that we could have from an old fuel cell and bladder setup, and the bladders are really expensive. I don't know what we're doing with all that yet, but I deleted that so that wasn't a part of why it didn't start. So then we had the oil system cleaned up and the fuel system cleaned up. We had a few problems. Mark, do you want to pop the hood for me? So we have this, it's supposed to be an 830 CFM carb for whatchamacallit, not Formula D, for NASCAR. And this thing does not look like it's a NASCAR carburetor at all. A NASCAR carb would not have this like electric stuff on the side for the choke. It's like a heating element, I think, or something like that. We kind of think that was just tossed on at some later date. I'm not quite sure what it is, but we're probably gonna have to swap over to like a Holley 850 or something CFM carb. We haven't done anything with the timing or anything else with the motor, but we tried to start the vehicle. We completely failed at starting the vehicle because I will overlay some video, but it had two full ignition systems on the dash because the MSDs, I guess, are super unreliable in racing, so they have to have two full systems. And over there, let me climb through here. You can see it has an A and a B ignition system. So you have to swap between them while you're racing if they go out. So they're wired in parallel. It has two full MSD boxes. And as one cuts out because it's having problems, you have a redundant one over there so you can swap back and forth. And there was two coils on the dash and two full MSD boxes. And what we did was we deleted one of the coils and we deleted one of the MSD boxes, and Mark mounted the new MSD box underneath there to hopefully keep it a little bit drier and cleaner if there's a problem and all the sunlight off of it, and just simplified the system.
All right, so I'm underneath the NASCAR getting ready to clean out the fuel system and the oiling system so we can get this thing started. I just drained what little bit of oil was left in this. There wasn't much. I'm pretty sure that's meant to be the drain right there. This is going to be the feed to the dry sump up front. It's the lowest point. There's I guess a heating probe there, a temperature probe right there. It has a heating blanket on it. All this to heat up the oil to 200 degrees, I think they said, before startup, so that it doesn't ruin the bearing clearance because it's such a tight clearance. This thing's pretty cool. This is a basically like a power steering pump, but it's for the differential. And there's a big cooler up there because, you know, on long races these guys definitely needed to keep the rear end cool, which is something we don't have to do. So that is all going to come off, save us a little bit of weight and oil capacity that we don't need. Other than that, it's pretty clean down here, pretty cool. Stuff like this is all going to come off eventually as well to save some weight. The drive shaft loop's up there, so this isn't necessary for a drive shaft loop. There's that cool boom tube exhaust that they do, so it's like a 4-to-1 on both sides, and then it goes into that boom tube, which is pretty cool. There's some adjustment on the arms so they can be adjusted this side height and this side has a centric on it, so it can be adjusted forward and back as well as height to kind of offset the axle like that, to change the thrust angle depending on the track. Again, it's all stuff that we don't need, but it is pretty cool to see. Aaron's on his way up here, so I don't know how much of this video he'll use, but I'm trying to record some stuff for him. It does have like this, all these adjustable points, which are really cool for adjusting suspension. We'll get to keep all that. I don't know how useful it'll be. Eventually this thing might go to coilovers if Aaron keeps it long enough. So I got this out. Tim stopped by. He's up here working. But I got this guy out. I undid all the safety wires there. I pressure washed it because it was filthy. I did my best not to get water inside here, but I'm about to pull it apart to dry it out anyway, so it's not like it's a big deal. This isn't like most tanks that I've dealt with that have some kind of V-band clamp or something here where you can separate the tank and see all the baffling in it. So I'm hoping that once this comes off and this filter comes off, that I can get in there good enough to clean everything out of it, make sure there's no junk. And so I got it off. It looks pretty good in there, despite the water that I got. But it's super sludgy here. Like,
lapping compound texture.
Yeah, it feels like lapping compound, basically. This is what happens when you don't change your oil and it just sits forever and degrades, and hopefully that's all that is. Hopefully it's not like engine gunk. So get all that cleaned out. Got to get this filter out of it. Still haven't done that. And clean all this crap up. Hopefully this O-ring's still good. It feels good. I don't want to have to try to find one or make one. That sounds like a terrible time for me. All right, so I got the cap off. Got the screen filter out, and there's some silicone and stuff in it. It's a little bit of metal. The big disappointment is looking down in there where the filter was at. There is a lot of silicone and a lot of shavings. Doesn't look like bearing material, but it definitely looks like aluminum and silicone that is all in this system now. So hopefully this motor's not hurt. Everything's kind of just been chilling here. Today, I am trying to sort out this ignition system problem. I cleaned out all the oil lines and the fuel lines. We got fuel to it last time, but we were not getting any spark. So we determined that both of the MSD boxes that were in here were bad. They're just old. So I pulled the whole thing out, which was on this like plastic platter. Everything was mounted to it nicely. Both coils, 2 of these boxes. So I've since went and picked up another box, the same exact box. I found out that the pills that were in this other boxes were 5,000 RPM limited, and this engine's supposed to be good up to 8 or 9, something like that. So we're probably gonna up that. This box came with some more of those guys, different variants. We got a new coil, and I'm just getting the new one's gonna go underneath instead of sitting on top, so it's not directly in sunlight or in the rain. I gotta get the coils mounted up there. Just basically finalize all the wiring. I got the same one, so I don't have to get any new connectors. It all just plugs in, and I'm keeping all the same wiring, just getting rid of the second box and only going to have one, which is all we need. We don't need a redundant system like they do in Nascar. So that's what I'm up to today. It's 100 and something degrees outside, it feels like, but I do have a fan blowing in here to cool me down a little bit. All right, so it's darker now. I took a break because it was hot as hell today. All right, so I've got the new coil mounted. I had to make a new lead wire there. All that's good. The MSD is mounted underneath there. I have a 5,000 or 6,000 RPM hill in it right now, just so I can make sure that everything's working. Need to plug in the battery. Pretty sure I'm getting fuel, although it did take forever last time. But I didn't get the tank cleaned out yet, so it's just running out of a jug, but it's a mechanical pump up front, so it should pick it up no problem. It did last time we tried to start this thing. The oil, oops, that was probably loud. The oil needs to be heated. Again, I heated it once already. It is on down. We're at like 12 volts, so the battery's not super happy. But if we watch that guy through here, we're getting spark now. So I need to figure out what my next step is. Double check the fuel to make sure it's getting the fuel. Put a battery charger on the battery, and maybe I'll get this thing to fire up tonight and hear it.
We are about to share the first startup with you and see if it all works. So in just a second, we will fire it up. But what we're worried about is if this motor's bad. I mean, these motors are crazy expensive. They're rare. They have like roller bearings and stuff for the cams and a bunch of stuff we're not used to. And everything is completely NASCAR specific. So these heads have a different valve angle to them, I think. Completely aftermarket block from Ford Racing. If anything's broken, I don't think we can replace anything because it's all too expensive. And it like revs to 9,300 or 8,800 depending on the settings and stuff. Basically, the motor is so expensive. If this thing's bad, all we did was buying a rolling chassis with like dead tires and a dog box. So fingers crossed this motor is going to be good. I think we're good for startup. Mark, can you think of anything that we're missing that's going to blow this thing up? Hey, what's that noise?
That was just slow starter.
All right. Does it have fuel?
Yeah.
So I guess I forgot to tell you guys what this is too. It's a 2003 Ford Taurus NASCAR that we bought for a drifting project, and we're gonna cut up and turn it into a full drift car. But before we started cutting it up and getting all crazy, we had to make sure it worked. So next stage is to get the little BMW, which has nothing to do with me, off the dyno. And we will toss this thing on the dyno and see if it actually makes power. It's supposed to make like 850 crank. So if we saw like 650 to 700 wheel, we would be super ecstatic. Ecstatic?
I think like 550.
Nah.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe with the 8,000 RPM rev limiter.
There's a lot of drivetrain loss and stuff.
Another thing to note, the MSD box, it has these little pills here. So you can change out the rev limiters.
So I can save the motor from Aaron. I'll just put 5 in there when he doesn't know. The car will be safe.
Yeah. So you just have these little tiny like fuse looking things, This one's for 7,000 RPM. And that's how you set your rev limiter. And then you just plug it into the box. All right, so that's pretty amazing. So next up, I can't believe it works, and it works that well. I was completely expecting to have to pull that carb apart and clean it. Did you think that carb was gonna work that well?
Not right off the bat. I thought for sure we were gonna have to replace it, especially where it was sitting in that like tiny homes assembly plant. I
Yeah.
assumed that it was gonna be just trash.
So the first thing I think is that's gonna be a limiting factor, because what we learned off that blue stock car is the carb is like the first limiting factor in a lot of these cars. Because for whatever class racing this car came from, because I think it was an ARCA after NASCAR, probably had some crazy weird carb on it, and we'll have to upgrade the carb. So we'll toss it on the dyno, see what it does, see what the restriction is. If it makes all the power right off the bat, we'll just keep that thing and put an air filter and everything on it.
To kill it.
Can we do a
I don't know
burnout?
if you can do a burnout. We can try.
I bet we could right now.
You can try.
Can I do it in the shop?
In the shop?
Can I do a burnout right there?
You can do a burnout right there.
I really?
If you fuck up my concrete, though.
Do you swear?
I just did.
What? Do a burnout?
Swear.
This is video proof.
If you, yeah, but like if you mess up the concrete, you gotta fix it.
All right. You think I can do a burnout on the fuel jug?
Oh yeah.
All right.
Fuel jug has
Mount that
nothing to
up.
do
Let's
with
do it. Let's do it right now.
What are we doing?
We are now hooking the truck to this because I can't press down the foot pedal with my foot because I have a broken foot. I have a broken toe and this is really hard, so we're making it easy on me. Old man status.
Chunks of tires shot back there.
Oh my God, this smells so bad. Those smell so much worse than normal drift tires. Holy cow. That's like a crime against humanity in there. And that concludes today's video. Thank you so much for watching. I think this thing can spin the tires and work as a drift car at this point. What do you think, Mark?
I think it'll be fine. First gear track's no problem.
I know, I'm excited.
Speed sports.
Woo! No, it's too loud for speed sport.